So this idea is about two ideas that are sort of interrelated. And the whole thing about how to fix music publishing is a trick question because they don't really want it fixed. But two things that can happen here are you have a PubCheck system. So we have spell check with documents and grammar check and all that. You check the integrity of the file. But right before you're about to send it, you're running through all the checks. Quality control. And in publishing, nothing like that exists. It's ridiculous. So all these so-called professional publishing platforms for musicians, they don't have a way to check the data integrity of the file you upload. So you need to have the publishing information, you need to have the ISRC and some rights information and the ISWC and the exact title, names, stuff like that. So a quick way to do that is to implement like APIs into the existing systems like Source Audio, Disco, and whatever others. And then when the people upload it, it can automatically be checked. And this is a good way to use AI too, because AI can kind of search the deeper crevices to check even the deeper validity of the information. But aside from all that, the other direction with fixing the conundrum of the modern world of music publishing, which is more indie publishing and self-publishing and all that, is actually not what you think. It's a total paradigm shift where we abolish the copyright system that has failed miserably. Really, copyright has become more of like a cloaking system that disguises things. And it's not even about tracking a particular copyright anymore. It's not about getting to the copyright holders. It's just a way to sort of say, we have a copyright, and we can do all these things with it if we need to. We can sue you, all this kind of stuff. But it's not really enforced in terms of protection. So, and otherwise there would never have been all this stuff with Napster and the things that have become the streaming platforms and free music and all that, because it would have not been allowed by the government, because it's the point of copyright is you're not allowed to make the copy. You're just not allowed, because a lot of money goes into making those things, and so you can't just like spread them around without some kind of reimbursement. It's not about not wanting them to spread. It's about supporting artists. So the big problem with the structure of the music industry is that it's a setup where people don't really understand how it works. So what happens is you have malicious actors who supply funding for the arts and the entertainment industries. And so the way that it's made to seem in media and the way it's portrayed is that there's like a democratic or public process that sort of manifests these stars. But the reality, if you just think for a moment, is that the corporations pick the stars through this sort of American Idol type process where they say, well, we have 10 people, let's pick this one for this and this one for this and this one for this, and this is distilled from like 100 or 1,000 different people who wanted to participate in the system. So it's not really like, oh, here's a great song, put it on the radio, and then it gets a lot of requests and all that. And instead, there's all this artificiality. So it ties into a bigger problem, because you also have the issue of data centers and how the information is costing energy. So we have multiple frauds happening here simultaneously and multiple issues. You have the tracking of the code. That's an inefficiency in the system. And so if each song is tied to a track, if each song is tied to a code, then what happens is this code's got to be like this thing that's providing an inefficiency all around the network. So every time the track is used, the code sends information to various organizations, and they have to look into it as well. So then we birth like this inefficiency in analytics. So there's all of this inefficiency tied to being able to barcode music. And what happens with that is it's like it's using all this information in the data centers as well. I mean, just me simply looking up anything involving that code, means that there's an energy transfer taking place and potential inefficiency. So that's a huge issue, and then it gets more further complicated because you have all of the fraudulent stuff with the bots and the artificial streams. So we knock the numbers out of the way, all of the numbers, whether it's view numbers or whether it's the code that goes along with the track or the publishing info, and we just say flat wage. If you're doing such and such in the arts, you have to prove it, da da da, and then you flat wage. All the middle stuff of inefficiency is abolished, and it also erases the most significant problem of all of these industries, which is corruption. Because the middle is where all this corruption is taking place. The bottom and the top, you don't see it, but in the middle is all the laundering of this corruption. So that's why things like that would never happen. It's not because it's not possible. It's because the powers that be want this corruption in the middle, the men in the middle, to continue. So that's all that is. And so you have two things there, going in very different directions. You have the idea of a pub checking system, which sort of plays to their ways of doing things. And then you have the idea of just get rid of copyright. It's failed. I'm not saying that because I think music should be free. I think that if you're in the arts, you should be paid either a living wage or some kind of flat base wage. And because we all know what musicians do when they have money. They put it right back into gear. So it keeps productivity in the economy going, and then they buy food, and it's like you can't really do anything with money aside from like drugs that really goes outside of the norms of the system. So it's kind of strange to think that just don't pay them anything. It's really not a useful thing or whatever, and then therefore they can't spend the money, so they can't come to your restaurant. They can't support the fire department. They can't pay their taxes because they don't make any money. So it's a weird, bad idea, train of thought. So that's the two things that can happen to sort of tweak what's going on in the music industry, either massively or subtly. But the idea that there's no pub checking system where you can just simply check what you just uploaded is silly.